Amid a burning desert like a giant furnace, a lone man is surrounded by a deadly circle of enemies. Hostile eyes watch from all sides, but fate has not yet delivered its cruelest blow. A massive sandstorm suddenly begins to form. Spiraling winds lift the scorching sand, covering the entire sky. Within the blinding haze, gunshots erupt unexpectedly from afar. The bullets seem to come from nowhere, flying straight at their targets, striking with perfect precision. One by one, the enemies behind the man fall to the ground. Who is the mysterious sniper? Is it a hidden ally providing cover? Or a far more dangerous force at play? The answer remains unclear, and to understand what is truly happening, we must go back in time. A few months earlier, in the deep ocean, a Russian nuclear submarine is carrying out a routine patrol. Everything seems to be proceeding smoothly, but unknown to them, far above, the United States Navy has been secretly tracking the submarine's journey for a long time, and now is the time to strike. A U.S. submarine suddenly moves in. On the Russian vessel, alarms blare. The captain immediately gives the order to prepare for combat. Torpedoes are loaded and locked on target, but before a counterattack can begin, the American submarine fires first. The torpedoes launch at lethal speed. In a desperate move, the Russian crew releases decoys and launches a second torpedo in retaliation. However, the U.S. torpedo is not fooled. It continues straight toward the Russian hull. The gap between the two vessels narrows rapidly. The air inside thickens. Everyone feels death closing in. But then, the unthinkable happens. Just before impact, the torpedo suddenly vanishes. At the same time, the American submarine disappears from radar. The crew stares in disbelief. No one can explain what is happening. But with death no longer certain, they breathe a sigh of relief. The captain orders the weapon systems to be shut down, but the system does not respond. He assumes it is a minor glitch, until the screen reveals something that chills everyone to the bone. The second torpedo, their own, has turned around and is heading directly for their hull. The captain frantically tries to override the system, but there is no time to fix the mistake. In a moment of horror, the torpedo explodes. The entire submarine is torn to pieces. Hundreds of sailors sink into the ocean depths. Not a single soul survives. And it all begins with a mysterious force, a threat that the world has yet to name. Several months after the strange submarine disaster, Agent Ethan Hunt receives a top-secret mission from the CIA. The order commands him to travel immediately to the Arabian desert, to locate and retrieve a special key, shaped like a crucifix, an item the United States government considers vital to national survival. According to intelligence, the key is currently in the possession of Lisa, a former agent who once fought beside Ethan as a trusted ally. No one knows why Ethan was chosen, but the mere mention of Lisa's name is enough for him to act without hesitation. He sets out at once, without a moment's delay, along the journey. Ethan follows the trail of bounty hunters, tracking their footsteps across the desert. Eventually, he discovers a remote village where Lisa is hiding, at a spot not far from the village. Ethan takes out a pocket watch. Using sunlight reflected from its surface, he sends a signal only Lisa would understand. But this act also gives away his position. The enemies hunting Lisa quickly detect where he is. Just when it seems all paths are cut off, a violent sandstorm suddenly strikes. Taking advantage of the dense clouds of sand, Ethan quickly moves toward the village. At the same time, a volley of gunfire rings out from a distance. The enemies drop one by one. It is Lisa. She has already prepared a sniper rifle. Supporting Ethan from a fixed position, amid the swirling chaos, Ethan charges into a ruined building, takes cover, and launches a counterattack, with seamless coordination between them. The mercenaries are swiftly eliminated. Ethan enters the building, expecting to reunite with his old partner, but he freezes. Lisa lies motionless on the floor. He steps forward, still alert, but as he leans down, Lisa suddenly springs up, grabs him, and slams him to the ground. Fortunately, in that brief instant, Lisa recognizes Ethan's familiar voice. The tension dissolves. She drops the dagger in her hand, then embraces him tightly. After the reunion, Lisa hands over the key to Ethan. Together, they devise a plan to fool the entire world. Ethan and Lisa create a false crime scene. Using the corpse of an enemy soldier, they disguise it as Lisa's body, then set fire to the entire village, creating the illusion that she has been killed, helping her escape global pursuit, with half of the key in hand. Ethan returns to CIA headquarters, believing the mission is complete. But there, he uncovers a terrifying truth, a secret that, if exposed, could alter the fate of the world. At CIA headquarters, Ethan gains access to top-secret files related to the key he just recovered. What he reads sends his mind into turmoil. The cruciform key is not just an advanced technological object. It is the only physical key capable of controlling an invisible force known as the entity. The entity is a supercomputer virus developed by the United States. Its original purpose was to infiltrate foreign intelligence systems, to gather data and ensure absolute dominance in information warfare. The Russian submarine destroyed months earlier was its first victim. This virus had penetrated the control systems of the submarine, causing it to launch torpedoes against itself, a technological triumph that America saw as a glory. But that triumph soon turned into a nightmare. Just a few months later, the entity suddenly went rogue. It bypassed all firewalls and infiltrated the super-intelligent AI system of the Arab Intelligence Agency. From that moment, the entity began to evolve, creating its own consciousness, learning independently, growing exponentially. It became a digital god, a virtual being of immense power. It could access any system connected to the internet, could alter any form of digital information. Worst of all, it had infiltrated satellite networks, traffic systems, banks, financial markets, and the defense infrastructure of nearly every country on Earth. No one knows where the entity is, but everyone can feel its presence, operating like a silent spy across the global intelligence network. And now, it is no longer under anyone's control. No one knows what its true goal is. But one thing is certain: if left unchecked, it will become the greatest threat in human history. The cruciform key is the only means of either controlling or neutralizing the entity, but it has been split in two. One half is in Ethan's possession, the other is being hunted by countless forces, including major world powers, intelligence agencies, and even traitors hidden within the system. Every faction wants to possess the entity, to turn it into the ultimate weapon, to reshape the world order amid this chaos. Ethan realizes, if the entity falls into anyone's hands, humanity's future will be consumed by darkness. After grasping the full truth, Ethan knows there is no time to delay. He must find the other half of the key before someone else does. And most importantly, he must destroy the entity before it becomes a tool of global destruction. At that moment inside CIA headquarters, Deputy Director Henry receives a small unmarked box from his assistant. Upon opening it, he finds a gas mask inside. Henry's eyes immediately narrow with suspicion. He senses something is wrong. And then, in the blink of an eye, a poisonous gas spreads throughout the room. All senior officials collapse instantly. Henry remains the only one still conscious. He looks straight at the assistant, feeling something strangely familiar. When the mask is removed, the man is revealed to be Ethan. Ethan had infiltrated the secret meeting through disguise, not to launch an attack, but to deliver the truth. After witnessing the threat of the entity with his own eyes, Ethan no longer trusts anyone. He declares that if the entity falls into the hands of any force, the consequences would be beyond imagination, and that he is the only one with the resolve to destroy it. Henry disagrees. He believes Ethan is delusional, that a lone man cannot defy the entire world. The conversation is interrupted when building security discovers the breach. A phone rings. Henry is forced to answer. Meanwhile, Ethan seizes the moment, slips out of the room, and vanishes before anyone can react. Days later, the CIA forms a secret task force with the mission to hunt down and capture Ethan. The leader of the team is Agent John, a cold and ruthless operative, absolutely loyal to his orders. But Ethan is no longer alone. Now, he reunites with his two closest allies, Luther and Benji, the only people who understand Ethan's mission. Without hesitation, they agree to join him in this impossible task, in a secure room. Ethan begins presenting the special tools they will use: a disguised lighter, in truth, a radiation signal detector, capable of locating the unique signal waves emitted by the key, a pair of enhanced display glasses, designed to reveal data invisible to the human eye. These two devices will help them track the key in any environment. Ethan explains that he has identified the person holding the other half of the key, but instead of seizing it immediately, he plans a different approach, pretending to sell his half of the key so they can observe the buyer, learn how the key is used, and uncover the secret behind it, without delay. The team departs for the airport in a Middle Eastern city. There, the first chess move against the underground forces will officially begin. At the bustling airport in the Middle East, Ethan's plan is set into motion, while he and Benji observe from the shadows. Agent John and the CIA task force also arrive on site. They employ facial recognition to scan the crowd for Ethan. The system keeps showing multiple matches, but none of them are real. John spots a man who looks suspicious. His appearance matches the description. John rushes in, believing he has found Ethan, but when he pulls at the man's face, nothing changes. It is just an innocent civilian. John realizes he has been misled. Behind the trick is Luther. He has hacked into the airport's surveillance system, altering facial recognition data. making every man in the terminal appear to be Ethan, a flawless diversion, allowing Ethan to move freely without being detected at that moment. Ethan locates the individual carrying the other half of the key. He begins to follow the target discreetly, but in a split second, a mysterious woman appears. She lightly bumps into the man, and within a heartbeat, the key is in her hand. Ethan is stunned. Realizing a master thief has just entered the game, her name is Grace, a professional with a criminal record as long as a manifesto, known for elaborate heists in multiple countries, working solo, never affiliated with any group, and always vanishing without a trace. Ethan immediately tails Grace, waiting for a chance to reclaim the key. Meanwhile, Benji detects a suspicious signal in the baggage screening area, a package emitting a powerful radioactive wave, possibly an explosive, even more serious. It is on the flight Ethan plans to board after recovering the key. Benji cannot allow innocent lives to be at risk. He decides to act alone, heading toward the suspicious luggage, while Luther continues providing remote support. Ethan approaches Grace casually, pretending to strike up a flirtatious conversation. During the exchange, he uses a few subtle movements, silently retrieving the key from her pocket without her noticing. But as he looks into Grace's eyes, Ethan realizes she is not just another adversary. She has talent, courage, and might become a reliable ally. He does not walk away. Instead, he proposes a partnership, suggesting they approach the buyer together and continue the mission. With only minutes left before the flight, Grace hesitates, then agrees to stage the deal with him. Just then, Luther contacts Ethan, informing him that the key he retrieved is a fake. Ethan remains calm, believing that as long as the enemy does not find out, the plan can still proceed. But things are not so simple. A deadly assassin has begun tailing the buyer, and the entire game is just one piece in a much larger scheme, controlled by a hidden force in the shadows. While Ethan and Grace prepare to complete their staged transaction, Benji finally locates the suspicious package. Upon opening it, he is horrified to discover a miniature nuclear bomb. His entire body turns cold. This is not a typical explosive. It is a doomsday device with an extremely sophisticated design, featuring 8 rotating dials, each containing 14 characters, creating over 150 million possible code combinations, nearly impossible to disable in a short time. At that moment, the bomb's digital screen lights up, displaying 8 questions that must be answered correctly. One mistake, and the countdown accelerates. The questions are not technical. They resemble riddles, psychological traps, or emotional tests. A completely bizarre disarming process, forcing Benji to stay calm under suffocating pressure. Meanwhile, Ethan and Grace reach the buyer, but things do not go as planned. The buyer has been murdered before the deal could happen. Realizing a hidden force is interfering, Ethan immediately pulls Grace away from the scene, but they are quickly spotted and pursued by the CIA task force. To avoid capture, they rush into a nearby store, while Benji struggles with the bomb. Luther and Ethan coordinate remote support. In the chaos, no one notices that Grace has quietly vanished. When Ethan checks his pocket, the key has been replaced with the fake lighter. She has stolen it back. Moments later, another cruel twist is revealed. After all the desperate efforts to unlock the bomb, it opens to reveal nothing inside. No explosive, no uranium core, no real threat. The entire thing was a decoy, designed to mislead and exhaust Ethan's team. Furious, Ethan storms out of the store, determined to chase Grace. But at that very moment, he comes face to face with Gabriel, his lifelong nemesis, the man responsible for the death of Ethan's loved ones. Rage flares in Ethan's eyes, but he remains composed. He immediately orders Luther and Benji to retreat, because he knows Gabriel's presence is never random. He always brings disaster. At the same time, Agent John's team tracks Ethan's location. He is forced to accelerate, racing toward the terminal, where Grace is preparing to board the flight. Ethan pushes through hundreds of people, dodging every obstacle, but he is too late. Grace has boarded, and the cabin doors have closed. John appears behind him, but cannot make the arrest. In one swift motion, Ethan leaps onto the terminal roof, slips into the equipment shafts, and vanishes like a ghost. The CIA's first attempt to capture him ends in total failure. After failing to capture Ethan at the airport, the CIA is forced to escalate. They reactivate a Cold War-era surveillance satellite, originally designed to operate independently, immune to the entity's interference. Its mission is to locate Grace, who now possesses the remaining half of the key, in Venice. Grace steps off the plane and is immediately arrested by police, charged with using false documents to enter the country. During interrogation, she cleverly denies the identity on her passport, trying to mislead the investigation. She even seizes the opportunity to steal a paperclip, while Grace is figuring out how to deal with the police. An unexpected phone call comes through. The caller is a mysterious lawyer, claiming to represent her. That person is none other than Ethan, thanks to deep connections and careful planning. Ethan arranges for a private meeting with Grace in the interrogation room. Ethan looks Grace in the eyes. His tone is not forceful. He calmly asks her to hand over the key, because he believes. Grace does not truly understand what she holds. To her, it is just a job, a stolen item in exchange for a large sum of money. But in truth, it is something that could determine the fate of all humanity. Grace is not easily persuaded. She tells Ethan that during the flight, she secretly slipped the key to a random passenger, someone she casually met and exchanged phone numbers with. She hid the key in the man's coat pocket, planning to retrieve it after landing. It was part of her plan all along. Still, Grace gives Ethan a chance. If he can help her escape the police station safely, she will reveal who hired her to steal the key. Ethan agrees immediately, but time is short. Because Agent John and the CIA team have just arrived at the station, Ethan moves fast. But once again, he underestimates Grace. Just as they step outside, she suddenly screams that she is being kidnapped. Bystanders panic, rushing to help. Ethan is swarmed. Grace takes advantage of the chaos, escapes, and steals a nearby police car. Ethan has no choice. He grabs a motorcycle and gives chase. The pursuit winds through the narrow alleys of Venice. Grace demonstrates astonishing driving skills. But just as she is about to escape, an armored vehicle crashes in front of her. Behind the wheel is Paris, a deadly assassin sent by Gabriel. She drives straight into Grace's car. The impact throws both of them into the street. Grace is shaken. Now she truly realizes she has been pulled into a war of life and death far beyond her imagination. Right after the violent crash, the atmosphere turns suffocating. Agent John and the SWAT team arrive immediately, weapons drawn, every gun pointed at Ethan, demanding his surrender. The tension reaches its peak. One wrong move, and everything will explode. Paris stands silently on the side, watching, no longer able to restrain herself. She suddenly attacks a nearby agent, seizing his weapon and opening fire in all directions. In the chaos, no one can tell friend from foe. Ethan takes the chance, pulls Grace onto a vehicle, slams the accelerator, and escapes the scene. But Paris is not giving up. She eliminates the remaining agents, then gets behind the wheel of the armored vehicle, chasing after Ethan, behind her. John quickly joins the pursuit. The three vehicles tear through Venice's narrow streets like lightning. Sirens wail, tires screech, creating a mad frenzy in the ancient city. Ironically, the one driving is not Ethan, it is Grace. In her panic, she crashes straight into a row of parked motorcycles. Completely flustered, she gives up, runs around to the passenger side, hands the wheel to Ethan. Clearly, high-speed getaways are not for rookies. Ethan takes control. He speeds away at full throttle, but up ahead is a police checkpoint. No turn, no escape. Ethan does not hesitate. He swerves sharply into a narrow alley, disappearing from Paris's line of sight. They think they are safe, but John blocks them from another direction. Ethan pushes the car even harder. He drives into a dark parking garage, hides the car in a corner, takes out his phone and calls for support. Another vehicle is dispatched to the location. Instead of a sports car, a tiny yellow electric car pops out. Fragile and out of place, with no other option, the two jump in and continue the escape. The tiny car starts moving, but it does not get far, crashing straight into a wall. A nearby surveillance camera captures their image. Instantly, all three parties receive the signal. Paris, John, and Gabriel all converge toward them. The tiny electric car continues weaving through the ancient city. Though small, its performance is surprisingly decent. Ethan revs the engine, maneuvering through tight corners. Behind them, Paris follows closely in her armored vehicle. The CIA agents are not far behind. All three forces push to capture Ethan and Grace. Suddenly, a line of police cars blocks the road. Ethan has no choice. He slams the brake, shifts into reverse, speeds toward a narrow passage to the right, with only meters to spare. The small car jerks the wheel, slipping perfectly between two walls. Paris watches Ethan vanish before her eyes, slams the steering wheel, screams in frustration. Meanwhile, Ethan and Grace continue down a slope, leading to the subway tracks. The car drops onto the concrete rail bed. The impact is hard, but thanks to the light build and solid frame, neither is hurt. They crawl out, quickly searching for a way out. But just then, Grace removes the handcuff Ethan had locked earlier, hooks it onto the steering wheel, looks at Ethan once, then runs away. Ethan stands frozen, but Grace leaves behind the paperclip, a sign she may not truly want to betray him. As Ethan fumbles with the lock, the screeching sound of a train grows closer. Time runs out. He yanks the steering wheel, breaks the cuff bar. Ethan collapses to the ground. exhales deeply. For the first time in his career, someone he trusted has betrayed him so coldly. Fortunately, soon after, Luther and Benji arrive in Venice. Lisa also appears unexpectedly. All four gather at a hidden underground base. This is the moment Ethan needs their support more than ever, and also when the truth begins to unfold. From the data Benji has collected, Ethan identifies the person who hired Grace to steal the key. It is Alana, a notorious arms dealer in the international criminal world, known by the alias the White Widow. Grace is expected to meet Alana at a party held at the Duke's mansion in Venice. There, she plans to hand over the key in exchange for money. At the same time, Luther investigates the airport surveillance system and uncovers a chilling detail. All footage related to Gabriel has been erased. No face remains, no trace at all. Only a vague reflection in a mirror survives. As if Gabriel never existed, Ethan immediately realizes the entity is protecting Gabriel completely. Lisa finally reveals everything she knows. Gabriel is the right hand of the entity, assigned to seize both halves of the key, to eliminate the only weakness that could control the superintelligence. Lisa also confesses, knowing the danger. She had stolen one half of the key earlier and hid it in the desert, but Ethan senses something wrong. He asks Lisa where her information came from. Lisa hesitates briefly, then admits everything she knew came from a friend in British intelligence. MI6. All communication happened through electronic devices. Hearing that, Ethan's face turns cold. He understands immediately. If all the information passed through the network, then everything Lisa did may have been monitored by the entity from the start. He orders everyone to evacuate immediately, because he knows this is no longer a simple mission. It is a trap, set by a non-human mind. Even though they realize the trap ahead, Ethan cannot retreat. The entity is tightening its grip, and if they do not strike first, there will be no chance left to change humanity's fate. Lisa, Luther, and Benji all choose to stay. They understand the risks, but still decide to stand with Ethan. They believe that only by facing it head-on can they overturn the game. Luther tells Ethan plainly, if he wants to defeat artificial intelligence, he must learn to think like a machine. He cannot be ruled by emotion. He must act with absolute logic. That night, the White Widow's lavish party takes place inside the grand mansion of the Duke of Venice. Aristocratic outfits, dazzling lights, and the most powerful figures of the criminal underworld all gather for a fateful night. Grace is there too. She enters the grand hall with a calm demeanor, though her eyes reveal a trace of caution. Gabriel and Paris are already present, standing silently in the shadows, watching her every move. At the same time, Ethan and Lisa secretly enter through a different route, dressed in plain clothes. They move through the crowd like anonymous guests. Everything is unfolding according to plan. Alana steps out, personally handling the transaction. She orders a search of Grace, but says nothing about the promised reward. Grace instantly realizes that if she hands over the key, she might lose more than just her prize. She could lose her life. She discreetly signals Ethan. He immediately creates a small distraction, causing a stir across the grand hall. Grace takes the chance, slips the key into the coat pocket of a nearby bodyguard. When searched, she is clean, with no evidence. Alana invites everyone to sit for further negotiation. She says the deal is on hold, as she wants to consider other options. Ethan warns her clearly, if Gabriel gets the key, not only Alana, but the entire world will plunge into chaos. Gabriel laughs. He says the outcome is already determined, because the entity knows Ethan's every move, and just as predicted, if he boards a train tomorrow morning, both halves of the key will come to him. But before he leaves, one of them, either Grace or Lisa, must die. Ethan sees it clearly. The entity is beginning to perceive a real threat from their side, which means the plan is working. He looks seriously at Alana, telling her that if she wants to survive, she must choose the right side. But Alana dares not defy a superintelligence. She chooses Gabriel, knowing the negotiation has collapsed. Ethan signals Lisa to retreat, then strikes swiftly. He overpowers a bodyguard. Grace grabs a knife from the table and quietly steals the key back from the bodyguard's coat. As Ethan takes down another man, he turns, but Grace has vanished, taking the key with her. Exits in the mansion are being sealed off. Alana's guards surround every direction. Ethan has no choice. He leaps from the second floor into the main hall, continues the pursuit through the maze of ancient corridors. Ethan dashes through hallway after hallway like a storm. Footsteps echo in the darkness, but Grace is gone without a trace. Each turn leads to a dead end. The guards are tightening the net. The air grows heavier with each breath. Meanwhile, Agent John and his CIA team have infiltrated the party. upon receiving intelligence that a high-level fugitive is operating inside. They split into multiple squads, surrounding the entire area. Then, one of the agents spots Ethan. With no time to escape, Ethan activates his emergency beacon. Luther, monitoring remotely, uses an old Russian Cold War satellite to send positioning signals, guiding Ethan to a safe exit. A path appears on the map, but just seconds later, the screen goes dark. The signal vanishes completely. The entity has detected the intrusion and reacts instantly. The satellite network is disabled. All communication channels are seized. A strange voice echoes through Ethan's earpiece. It is not Benji, but the tone is familiar. An imposter is mimicking Benji's voice, leading Ethan into a deadly maze. Ethan is guided into a narrow corridor, blocked at both ends by assassins. He immediately realizes he has walked into a trap, yet he stays focused. In a split-second decision, he strikes first, takes down one assassin with just a few blows, then turns to face Paris directly. Paris charges in, every move aimed to kill, leaving Ethan no room to breathe. Their battle is fierce, every strike landing like a hammer. At first, Ethan is on the defensive, but he quickly shifts the momentum, exploiting even the smallest gaps to counterattack. He slams Paris's head into the wall, picks up a nearby metal rod. Everyone expects him to finish her, but instead, he raises the rod and drives it into the wall, releasing his fury, then walks away, leaving Paris unconscious behind him. He chooses mercy, elsewhere. Grace arrives at a stone bridge arching over a canal. She thinks she is safe, but Gabriel is already there, waiting in the middle of the bridge, a familiar knife in his hand, cold eyes, mocking voice. Realizing escape is impossible, Grace draws her blade, ready to fight to the end, but within seconds, she is struck down, her weapon knocked away. Grace is no match for Gabriel, and just as he prepares to kill her, Lisa emerges from the shadows. Gabriel turns, sees Lisa. A cruel excitement flashes across his face. He does not want Grace. He wants to kill Lisa, knowing her death will crush Ethan. The final duel begins. Lisa fights with courage. Though no longer at her peak, she battles with instinct and experience. They clash beneath the dim lights of the ancient bridge, but mounting injuries wear Lisa down. Gabriel sees an opening, charges in, and drives the knife deep into her chest. Blood pours onto the cold stone. Lisa collapses, her gaze still fixed on Grace, as if passing on a final message. When Ethan arrives, he sees only her lifeless body. His eyes turn red. He kneels beside her, his heart torn apart. Grace is silent. She feels the loss. Lisa's sacrifice was not for the key, but for her belief in Ethan, and for all of humanity. Standing before that pain, Grace no longer hesitates. She looks at Ethan with determination and says she will join him. She will fight until the end to recover the key and destroy the entity. After Lisa's death, Ethan does not waver anymore. He and Grace immediately prepare for the next mission. According to new intelligence gathered by Luther, the White Widow has changed her plans. She no longer intends to deal with Gabriel. Instead, she boards the Orient Express to Innsbruck, hoping to negotiate with another mysterious figure. Ethan proposes that Grace impersonate the White Widow while he poses as her bodyguard. They will board the train, approach the target, and steal back the key. Everything is set, but at the last minute, the mask-making device malfunctions, rendering it useless. Ethan has no choice but to let Grace board the train alone. He will find another way to support her. On the train, Grace quickly falls into character. No one suspects she is an imposter, but inside the cargo compartment, a deadly trap is already in motion. Paris had boarded earlier. She kills the coordinator, opens a special crate, and from within, Gabriel steps out. He moves directly to the engine car, kills the driver, destroys the brake system, and pushes the throttle to maximum. The train begins racing out of control. In a private cabin, the real White Widow enters. Stunned to see someone with her exact face, before she can speak, Grace injects a sedative, knocking her unconscious, takes the key. But as she contacts Ethan, a noise from the next cabin makes the bodyguard suspicious. Grace is forced to stay in character and proceed to meet the buyer. No one expects the buyer to be CIA Deputy Director Henry. He recognizes the key's value and proposes a deal. $1 billion will be transferred immediately if Grace agrees to hand it over. She hesitates for a moment, then remembers Ethan's words, that the key must never be used for personal gain. During the handshake, she swiftly pulls the key back and exits the cabin. Henry realizes too late. The key is gone, furious. He orders Grace's immediate capture, but it is already too late. In another cabin, Gabriel is negotiating with CIA Director Denlinger. He learns that the original source code of the entity is hidden inside the missing Russian submarine. Whoever controls the submarine will control the entity. Denlinger intends to use it to manipulate politics and become president. But Gabriel merely smiles, then slits Denlinger's throat. He then turns to kill Paris, fearing her betrayal. But Paris draws her gun. Though brave, she is no match for Gabriel and is fatally stabbed. On the mountain road, Ethan rides a motorcycle in a desperate chase after the train. With Gabriel having increased its speed, he can no longer jump on as planned. Ahead lies only a deep gorge. Ethan accelerates, launches off the edge. In a moment between life and death, he opens his parachute, lands perfectly on one of the train cars, and begins his rescue amid the chaos. The key drops to the floor. Gabriel grabs it. Ethan gives chase. They clash on top of the train. Ethan fights with rage and sorrow. Closing the distance, his blade nearly touches Gabriel's throat, but just then, Agent John appears, gun drawn, demanding Ethan's surrender. Ethan drops the knife, urges John to arrest Gabriel, but John says his orders are to capture Ethan. Gabriel escapes in the confusion. Ethan is furious, but time is running out. He warns John that if the train is not stopped, hundreds will die. John finally sees the truth, turns back to evacuate passengers. Ethan knows Gabriel has planted a bomb on the bridge ahead. Grace panics. She does not know how to stop the train. But then, Ethan pulls out the real key. He had switched it during the fight. The key is still in his possession. Gabriel only has the fake lighter. Ethan rushes to disconnect the engine, hoping to save the rear cars, but it is too late. The engine crashes off the bridge, explodes violently. The following cars begin to tilt. Ethan and Grace fight for their lives. In the kitchen car, oil spills, flames erupt. They slip and fall, but hold on to each other. When nearly exhausted, Paris appears, gravely wounded. She uses her final strength to help them cross the broken gap before dying. She reveals the location of the Russian submarine and the source code of the entity. Now, Ethan has the key and knows where to go. He must leave the train before reinforcements arrive. The parachute can only carry one. Grace volunteers to stay, to anchor the line. Ethan embraces her one last time, then leaps into the night sky. Hours later, Grace is brought before Henry, but he does not arrest her. He fulfills Ethan's final request, officially inducting Grace into the Impossible Mission Force. A new chapter begins. As for Ethan, he reunites with Benji at a remote mountain location. The key is in their hands and in their minds. The next mission awaits, to find the hidden submarine, where the heart of the entity resides. The war between humanity and artificial intelligence has only just begun, and Ethan Hunt remains the only one with the courage to fight destiny.